8 months ago, I made this poll, and it's dreaded me ever since, because what was meant to be a joke response ended up being the most popular. You see, the problem is, I've never built a Bedwars map before, and if I were to attempt it, it would probably look a little something like this. I mean, it's got a shop, and a chicken, and a sun, and whatever the heck this thing is. Now, I think I made it blatantly obvious enough that I was going to find some help, or help might find me. You see, after a few days of crying over the poll results, I woke up to this DM from someone who saw the poll and asking to collaborate over the Bedwars map. So I took a look at their YouTube channel and I was just instantly blown away, and I was like, yes. Okay, well, there are a few more words, but I think you get the point. And so it was finally time to start building. What were we going to build, you might ask? Well, I didn't know. All I knew is that I wanted to build futuristic, but better. Now, while this sounds cool on paper, the downside was that neither of us knew how to build in a futuristic style. And so whenever we didn't like something, we usually just added a face to it and it made it 10 times better. But after a lot of trial and error, and Pinky putting way too much effort into these sketches. I mean, hold up, look at this. She shaded the text on a sketch. But I digress. We finally figured out our futuristic, leaning on cyberpunk theme. And now that was all left to do was to build the map. I mean, how hard could that be? Now, we first started with a diamond gen, laying it out, and mocking up some buildings. Now, obviously, they weren't going to stay like this, so I started detailing all of them, adding a lot of lights to keep with our futuristic theme, which is a continuing trend as I move to the bottom of the island. Now, I know this sounds weird, but this is probably my favorite part of the map, and I think it's due to the sheer amount of lighting down here. It just makes it seem so vibrant, even though it's just a bunch of gray. And don't worry, I didn't forget to do the back. Usually when I'm rebuilding these maps, I get the front done, and I'm like, yes, I'm done. And I realized I forgot to do the back, so I have to go back and do all of them. But I actually remembered for once, so I'm done. With the diamond gen, the bases and middle aren't even started. So we started them, with me focusing primarily on the bases. Now, I'm not even going to try and explain what I was going for here because I didn't even know. I did have a few reference images pulled up, but I was mostly just winging it, which ended up somehow working given this like dystopian futuristic vibe. And I think that's a good way to compare this to futuristic. It's actually the same way people compare Star Wars to Star Trek. Star Wars takes place in a dystopian future like this map, and Star Trek takes place in a utopian future like futuristic from Nethergames, where everything is much cleaner and brighter, where this is much darker and more run down. But while I've been building the bases and talking about space movies for some reason, Pinky's been getting a head start on mid, practically building an entire city because, well, she was. Now, some of these are the same buildings from the start of the video, but they didn't quite fit the best and needed a few alterations. But once that was done, we decided to copy and paste the bases around so we could start to get a feel for the map. And while it was looking great, mid just felt like it was missing something. So we just kept building and building and more building, more building, and more building. At some point we realized that we were just running away from the truth. This wasn't the mid that we had hoped for, but it had good bones. And so we chopped the top half of it off and started new. And this time around we made sure to keep mid a little more open so you could actually see across the map. And after looking at it, we decided to add a second layer to the top to give mid a little more height. Then we might have went a little overboard by copying and pasting the same thing from the bottom and adding it to the top. But alas, it was done. And as always with all my maps, you can find the download link in the description.